Hello. Maybe some of you have already heard that emotional intelligence is a key for being a successful leader. And maybe some of you already know that the emotional climate of an organization is actually crucial for business success. And I am here today to talk about how to build a winning emotional climate in your workplace. But let me share you a secret. I am not emotionally intelligent. Actually, I am a neurotic psychologist. I worry a lot. I get sensitive. I'm quite sensitive. And when I take my work very personally, and when I'm criticized, I actually feel really bad. Yet, I think I've been quite successful in the business life. Because luckily, emotional intelligence is built on different skills, and those skills can be learned. So my key takeaway from today will be that when we understand the human mind and we understand the role emotions play in the workplace, then we can build a winning emotional climate where people can actually reach their full potential. And I'm also saying that there's a huge untapped potential that many leaders are not aware of. Let me illustrate with an abandoned airplane. There was an airplane that was abandoned in the middle of wilderness, and it was found by some villagers. And those villagers lived in the middle of nowhere, so they didn't know what an airplane was. So they started studying it. And soon they discovered that this airplane can actually drive forward, and it can be used for transporting people. So they transported people happily back and forth until they realized that these extensions are actually causing some problems, and they decided to cut them off. So they cut off the wings from the airplane, and they did get a better bus. That was the smart thing to do. Or was it? Well, maybe it was for the villagers. They cut off the wings and they got a better bus, and they actually ruined the potential of the airplane too, because an airplane without wings cannot fly. But of course, everybody in this room knows that even if they got a better bus, they did not see the true potential of the airplane. They didn't see that it can actually fly. And I see the same thing is happening in the world around the world in thousands of workplaces today. Because when the competition is getting tougher and changes are becoming faster, people are facing increasingly high demands. And as a result, we have millions of people who come to work every day feeling unfulfilled and feeling emotionally dead. And when people are not feeling good, then they are not delivering at their full potential. They are delivering, but they are like airplanes being used as buses. If we look at Gallup's engagement surveys, they are quite depressing year after year. We can see that 87% of people worldwide are not actively engaged in their work, which means that they either tolerate their work or they hate their work. But also we know that when companies have a highly engaged workforce, then they can actually outperform their peers by 147%. That's quite a potential we have here. However, the challenge today is that even in today's world, many leaders still believe that emotions are not something for work life, that emotions should be cut off. That emotions are not for serious business leaders. No. But when you cut off emotions from work, you also cut off the wings from the airplane. So, we need to start building emotional climates where everybody can win. Because we know that when people are feeling good about their work, they can actually reach incredible potential. They can endure even pain and suffering and yet find it worthwhile if they just feel that if there's a purpose, if it feels important. So we need to start building those winning emotional climates where people can actually fulfill their full potential. And how do we do that? Well, if you want to build airplanes, you need people who understand airplanes. You need people who can design and build and maintain and eventually fly airplanes. And it's the same with people. As leaders, we need to understand, or we need to improve our people skills. We actually need 3 foundations to build a winning emotional climate. And the first foundation is becoming aware of emotions, increasing our emotional awareness, because emotions are there all the time. In business life, we usually talk about facts and figures and strategies and targets and so forth, but we can completely forget that whenever we talk about facts and figures, they also awaken certain emotions. How do you feel about your strategy? How do you feel about these targets? How do these processes make you feel? Emotions are there all the time, and if there are no emotions, there is no fuel. Second thing to understand about emotions and increasing emotional awareness is that emotions can actually boost your performance highly. They have a direct impact on your cognitive thinking and your problem-solving skills. For example, there was this one study where people were given a rather complex task and they were given 10 minutes to solve the problem. And when people were feeling neutral, 13% of people solved the problem. But when they were made to feel good first, 75% of people solve the problem. That's a 62% increase. What a potential we have here. Okay, then we talk about understanding the forces behind emotions. We all know that every human being has some physiological needs. We know that everybody needs food and water and shelter and air and so forth. But it turns out that human beings also have some psychological needs. We all need to feel that we belong. We need to feel we are valued. We need to feel important. We need to feel that we are good at something. And these psychological needs are as real as the physiological needs. They are not something, oh, nice to know, but let's get to business type of knowledge, but they are real. If people's physiological needs are not met, then people die. And if our emotional needs are not met, we die emotionally. And then we become just shadows of what we could be. Okay, then we need some practical skills. So what kind of practical skills do we need for building an emotional climate? Well, there are many levels of skills. You need skills for dealing with yourself, with your own emotions, and you need skills for understanding emotions around you. And of course, you need some organizational practices that actually boost the emotional climate. But the best place to start is yourself. For example, I once asked this CEO that, how are you doing today? And he replied that, well, as long as I'm at peace with this constant sense of insufficiency, then everything is great. And I think that was a great answer. You can find peace, a certain peace of mind, even in the midst of hell, if you can manage your emotions, if you can tolerate the experience. Okay, but let me share with you one practice that you can actually start using today. How many of you as leaders have sometimes heard that you don't have enough time for them? Quite a few. But if we look a little bit deeper, if we look at it at the psychological level, what do we see? Because whenever people want something, they also want, there's always some psychological needs that are not fulfilled, and they always want a certain experience too. They're looking for an emotional experience. So what are people really saying when they say that you don't have enough time for me? What they are saying is maybe that I don't have the experience that I have been truly seen, that I have been truly heard, that we have been able to share what is really important. So maybe people are saying that there hasn't been a true connection. And creating a true connection is it's not usually a question of time, as much as it is a question of presence. Because when people feel that someone's present for them, it makes them feel really good. It really makes them feel important, makes them feel valued, makes them feel soothed, and it makes them feel empowered. So try this today. Next time somebody is talking to you, try to listen to him or her like you are about to hear the most important thing you will ever hear in your life. And see what happens. When we understand human needs and we understand the emotions and we have some practical skills, we can actually build the winning emotional climate. And everybody can learn these skills. Even those people who don't even know what an emotion is. Well, how do I know? Well, first of all, like I told you, I've seen it myself. And more importantly, I've seen it in other people who have more potential than me. And of course, there's the research to back it up. There's evidence that it can be improved. But everybody can learn, so the real question is not that whether you want to, or whether you can learn or not. The real question is, can you afford not to learn? Thank you.